All right. You said it was the vMix. Now can you hear me? Let's see here. No audio, Roger says. Barb says yes. No sound in Virginia. No volume. I am. All right. Bruce says all good. That's all right. Now we're back on track. All right. Joey, we got Joey in the background as always. I know everybody wants an update on Glenn. Spoke to his wife, messaged me this morning, and he's on that road to recovery. So, it's all uphill, all downhill for him. If there's any other updates, I'll let you know. But as of right now, he's just recovering and getting better. So hopefully we'll have him be able to join us here shortly. Now, this information at hand, let's go ahead and jump in the VectorVest 7 software. Take a look at the major indices here. All right, we're in the VectorVest 7 software. You can see the major indices pretty mixed right now. The Dow Jones negative territory, NASDAQ positive. There was a lot of positive sentiment in the market this morning. I saw NVIDIA hit a new high as well. It's 153 and some change. We'll take a look at the chart. So if you're holding NVIDIA, I know you're happy about that one. In addition, we can see the color guard has now become neutral, right? We had 2 days of green lights. So it's, again, neutral doesn't mean go out, sell everything, start buying contras. No, it's just saying take a breather from loading up on any more stocks, right? And if you are going to load them, just have some caution. Obviously, the MTI is still elevated here. We've got 1.51 on the MTI rating as of right now. If we take a look at the top RT industries, the only positive one in territory today is going to be technology, right? See, it's up 0.06%. And if we take a look at the sectors, aerospace and defense leading the charge to the upside, 0.5% today. I saw the news, with Trump going to NATO, the NATO summit. Looks like the countries are on board for pledging, I think it was a 5% of their GDP being the target there. So for increased defense spending. Now, I didn't want to hit you with another aerospace and defense video, so that's not going to be tonight's video by any means. I hit you with an NVIDIA video. I think the NVIDIA video is very appropriate with it. Bill says no sound. Is the sound still working? Turn your volume up, Bill. All right, Tabula, looks like can hear me here. Thought it was noon. It will be positive. Okay. But that being said, let's go into some news stories. Let's see what's moving the market right now. First thing I want to talk about, obviously, Iran. The big thing right now is going to be the Strait of Hormuz. I know there's been, probably a lot of you have seen it as well, a big traffic jam as far as, tankers, container ships, things of that nature. It's mostly going to be oil ships, let's be honest, not probably a lot of, bulk carriers. But GPS, I thought this was interesting here, that GPS jamming, even though there's a ceasefire right now, there is an Israeli-Iran ceasefire, but GPS jamming continues to make vessel transits difficult and has reduced traffic by roughly 20%. Now, I made it very clear that oil was not going to be the play last week. I was looking at shipping, if anything. Oil, again, dropped quite a bit yesterday. I haven't really looked at oil today. But that being said, we're going to take a look at the shipping stocks, the industry per se, and see if we're seeing any kind of momentum there for a nice swing trade, something of that nature to come from these geopolitical concerns. Other than that, look at this. We're back at it again. California ports see new wave of freight containers as ships try to beat the China tariff hike. Same articles we saw before the tariffs, the first round of tariffs here. John says, Ryan, how about a video comparing the market timing in 2020 to the market and market timing in 2025? I always use historical trends. That's not a bad idea, John. And I might do that video for Monday. I will be off Monday. Just a heads up. But I do got to put a video for you there. But that might be the style of video that doesn't have to be time sensitive, right? Not like individual stocks. So, John, that's actually a good video. Maybe it should be about market timing. And historically, we can look at things like MTI, BSR, some of our market trend indicators as well. So John, that's actually a really good video. Market timing. Interesting. Is Bill already watching the replay? Who knows, Tabula? But yeah, if he started from the beginning, that's probably why he was putting in, no sound. Bill says oil smoil. Yeah, I wasn't, because I remember last time I even told you guys this. I wasn't falling for that oil trap. It was the shipping stocks that took off with the Houthis and the Red Sea drama as that unfolded. But we're going to take a look at shipping, right? I haven't given up on shipping. We'll see. I might give up on it today, just depending on what the chart's telling me. I haven't bought any shipping stocks yet or options on them. But here's another story. And I wasn't going to be too surprised by this because I have a family member selling some property right now. And we're looking at, the Zillow estimates and the historical trends of not only the property they're selling, but some other properties. And this is in Charlotte, North Carolina, pretty, historically hot housing market over the last few decades. But they've been on the downtrend, and not just a couple months. Majority of the houses we looked at have been on the downtrend for at least about 2 years, depending on, exactly where we were looking. But look at this article here. Sales of new homes tanked in May, pushing supply up to a 3-year high. Now, what's causing a lot of the sticky inflation? Housing prices, right? Housing cost. So, housing market slowing down, pulling back, depends what side of the coin you're on. But yeah, if you're trying to sell a house right now, probably not a good thing for you. But for everyone else, everyone else is going to be happy. But more importantly, I think, as housing comes down a little bit from elevated levels, that's going to help out with the inflation report coming up, right? Taco will delay again and again. Bill, the taco trade is one thing I try not to talk about too much just because it's political. But that being said, the container ships, that deadline, August 12th. I think the reciprocal side of the equation is July 9th. We talked about it last Friday's live stream. So again, with the MTI levels elevated and big, items on the agenda over the next month or two, just be careful of that. Housing cannot keep going up with the increases in taxes and insurance costs. Well, John, housing can't keep going up because people can't afford housing. Let's be honest here. Housing has greatly outpaced wages. We went from, the middle class buying homes now to everyone becoming a renter, John. So let's be honest about that. So personally, if we're going to be competitive on a global level, if we're going to keep, costs down, inflation down, housing got to come down as well, right? NVIDIA at an all-time high. That's what Bill's saying in the comment section. Bill, yes, it did. And this morning when I recorded a video or, deciding a topic, again, the NATO summit, defense stocks, probably a good play. Not going to ignore defense stocks, but I've been throwing a lot of defense videos your way, so I did not do a defense video tonight. It was on NVIDIA. I had a feeling it was going to hit a new high. I recorded it before it hit a new high. You'll see that. And guess what? It hit a new high. So we're going to take a look at NVIDIA. And I do compare NVIDIA to a couple other stocks in the semi space, some hot stocks there. So definitely check out that video tonight at 6 p.m. Now, going back to this article, again, we're just repeating. History likes to repeat itself. Just volume of shipment containers keep going up. See here, this was a housing one. BP, this was interesting. BP shares rise on takeover speculation. So we're seeing some mergers and acquisition action when it comes to the big energy players here. This is going to be between BP and Shell. Both stocks, Shell negative, BP up slightly, about 1.7%, right? Let's see here. John says, I was a kid when the S&L, what do you mean by S&L crisis happened, and homes fell bigly from 91 through 94. I was a small little lad back in 91, 94, John. The biggest housing crisis I can remember personally was the 2008 recession, right? And, again, housing cannot just keep going up and up and up. Oh, savings and loan. Interesting. Okay. But yes, as far as housing and interest rates being elevated, we'll see how that plays out in the housing market. But me personally, housing's got to cool off, right? I think that's why we're seeing the stock market starting to roar. We're seeing other assets starting to roar. You know, gold, Bitcoin. You know, if you consider it an asset, I do personally. But yeah, that being said, you know, if you're in housing, if you're in REITs, things of that nature, I thought it was just interesting because this was literally, you know, probably over the last week we've been looking on, you know, Zillow and Zestimates and noticing that downtrend, and then this article comes out. So, you know, don't keep that on your radar going forward. All right, now individual stock news. This is a big one right here. Drone maker AVAV, AeroVironmental shares pop 24% on earnings beat. You see the stock here still up 22%, holding those gains. This is a drone maker stock, right? Drones, they're the future, right? We've seen the conflict in Ukraine, we've seen Iran, Israel. Drones are the future here. But not only when it comes to military applications, but here in Charlotte, Amazon just started the drone delivery service. So both domestic and military applications, but big things when it comes for AVAV. Here is an article. It's got a paywall. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't have the paywall now. Jim Cramer says this defense stock is the next Palantir of hardware, and it soared 30%. He's talking about AVAV. He's comparing it to Palantir. So when we get to the VectorVest 7 system, we're going to see how they match up. I looked at both of them. I'm not going to talk bad about Palantir by any means, but in the VectorVest 7 system, AVAV did look a little bit more attractive, just from those indicators itself. So we will take a look at these two items. And then we've got Micron. This chip, I got a paywall here on this computer, but this chip stock has been hotter than NVIDIA and is set to report earnings. It's Micron. I know you can't see behind that paywall. Micron is mentioned in the video, and yes, it has outperformed NVIDIA, and in the video I kind of explain why that to be the case. So again, Micron, keep it on your radar. It does have earnings this week, and obviously if earnings are good and optimism, that can bring optimism to the semiconductor industry, right? So not if you're just holding Micron, but if you're holding some of the other characters there, NVIDIA, AMD, Broadcom, whatever it may be, it'll probably help lift them all up, right? And we are aiming for that July high. If you've never seen Dr. Toledo's, he's had articles or essays written on in the past, July high. I have a feeling we probably will reach a July high here and the market pull back, but we'll see how that goes. What's the name of the stock with Palantir again? Oh, AVAV, AV, AeroVironment. Let me just take a look. If we break it down here, revenue expected 275, 242 expected. So beat on revenue and clearly beat on the earnings per share here. I wonder what the year over year, the company log physical revenue up 14% year over year on revenue. Where is it at here? Oh, and then it did close the $4.1 billion acquisition of defense tech company Blue Halo May 1st. Blue Halo makes drone and defense technology such as laser weapon systems with a focus on space tech. So definitely put this on your radar here. If you like defense, if you like drone companies, this could be a good play because as we've seen with the two most recent conflicts, Iranian, Israel, and then Ukraine, Russia, drones. I mean, it's going to be at the forefront of warfare going forward. Bernard, Noologies opposed to cybersecurity. The alliance recognizes that quantum computing could revolutionize encryption and communication. Bernard, there's no doubt that quantum computing will revolutionize encryption. And that's the whole basis behind crypto is encryption. That's why it's called crypto in the first place, in case you guys didn't know that. But yeah, and then Micron. So let's go back in the VectorVest 7 system here. Let's take a look at these stocks. As far as the market's still mixed right now. All right. Oh, I put them in the wrong one here. NVIDIA, you can see up 3.91%. It surpassed its prior high. Now its prior high was 153.13 cents. The defense against drones are lasers. Who's making those? There's a lot of different ways, against defense against drones. But yeah, it's lasers being one of them. Ryan, did you look into IDCC? I have not yet, John. But as far as NVIDIA, yes, it surpassed it. We got a new high there. AVAV up 22%. We got Micron here, which is down today. Palantir is down. Shell down. So the only three here being up is BP. Now, if we compare AVAV to Palantir, like the article here, value, it's about double what we value it, right? While Palantir, multiples of our valuation. So from a valuation perspective, yes, AVAV is more attractive. From long-term price appreciation perspective, both are not favorable, but AVAV more attractive. Safety, about the same, right? So they are about the same when it comes to price volatility, risk in general, those kinds of things. If we look at RT relative timing, yes, Aero environment, this trend is stronger to the upside, obviously in a little bit more overbought territory in general. But Palantir here at 1.83, so both of them have a nice trend to the upside. Now overall, VST ratings, Aero environment takes the charge, right? CI ratings, this is much lower, so that's telling me that AVAV has yet to hit a new high in a while Palantir has. So this one might have some room to run, right? Just from a technical level as well. Palantir is already at new highs, way overvalued. AVAV, it is overvalued, double, not nearly compared to what Palantir is currently. But that's telling me that there's, some levels, at least higher, as far as price action, right? We'll take a look at the chart and just see where those levels are at, see where we could find some resistance or support going forward. Forecasted data, mixed batch here. NVIDIA, you got to love this stock. Again, when you compare it to most stocks, it just dominates them. Even Micron, the sales growth rate, 38%, growth rate in earnings, 36% here. And then Palantir in third place. The other companies, oil, negative. And then AVAV, we've got negative here, right? So forecasted data, I'm going to like Palantir better. They have their mobile phone apps and laptops to be tracked. AVAV has a low CI, though. Yes, AVAV does have a low CI. So you're not chasing a stock that's hitting new highs right now, right? And we're going to take a look at here in just a moment. And let's actually add AVAV to the list. All right. First up, we got NVIDIA. Let's go to 3 months here. There it is. Nice full body candlestick. Actually, let's go back 6 months. No. Maybe a little bit more. Yep, there's the high from before. The first touch on that descending channel. We got the consolidation here right as this is a resistance level. You can see price action caught in the zone right at this resistance. Broke out yesterday. Big gap up today. Full body. I like what I see here. But again, I've been talking about it. It's my favorite chart pattern. Value on the rise. Price action on the rise. Especially here when it broke out of the descending channel. I like what I see here when it comes to NVIDIA, right? Definitely a great stock to own. Here we got the SPY. Last week we were talking about this touch, approaching this 20-day EMA. A lot of the major indices in the same situation here. Nice retest off of it to a new high. I like what I see there when it comes to S&P 500. Now here's the Qs. Same thing, retest off the 20-day EMA. If I go to the VectorVest Composite, it's going to be the same exact thing, right? We got a nice touch on it. But the VectorVest Composite here showing some weakness today. If I go to 1 month, we could get a bearish engulfing candlestick. So, keep that in your mind, especially if you're holding, some low caps, right? If you're holding some low caps, keep that in mind. Now let's go back up to SP. We're going to go to 6 months. Now we're approaching these new highs here. Old highs, which comes in at 613. Right now we're at 606. We're not that far away. So that's what I was saying. The idea of getting a new high, the July high, speaking of that, we've done articles in the past, especially with Dr. Toledo. That is a real situation that we could have here, a new July high, and then we'll play, assess it from there. The Qs actually looks like it just hit a new high, the NASDAQ 100. VectorVest Composite still a bit away, but as far as the major indices here, we are approaching those new highs. So that's a very viable situation that could happen in July. Now here we've got AVAV. So I've had a line here from before. Let's take a look, see what this line is doing here. Oh, that would be this resistance. Probably why I had it here. We broke past that resistance. We'll make it a zone. Oh. Now if I keep going back, so AVAV has been on an uptrend for quite some time now, so it is actually at a new high. So the CI is probably going to start raising pretty soon. As long as we get closes above this prior high, that CI is going to start ticking up quite a bit here. But ultimately, if you're thinking about AVAV, this is the level of support that I'm looking at right here. See, I already had this one line here at 222. The top of that resistance around 236. If we get a close above 236, that would make me much more optimistic, especially if we get some follow through the next day, or if we break this, maybe retest this as a level of support and a pivot to the upside. But ultimately, to get bearish on this position, or potentially think about cutting, taking profits or whatever it may be, 224, probably right in there. Yeah, 223. If we break below this, we got a big gap to fill, and that fill would bring it down just shy of $200 here. But you can see, just like Palantir, there's a little bit more life in the valuation. Do we see it move more frequently? But the stock is greatly overvalued. So I'm not going to approach this, from a valuation play by any means. No, it's clearly momentum play here. You can use things like star search to help capture momentum, and especially look at that outside Bollinger Band, see what levels it's at right now. But let's go. I want to go into viewers. Actually, we'll do it via graphs. Let's go to industry. All right, first up, we got aerospace and defense. Look at that big gap up. That's why I was tempted to make a video on aerospace defense stocks. A lot of big movers here, and if the budgets of all these militaries are going up, that's a lot more capital going into these positions. Going to increase their earnings, right? Yeah, they didn't pay attention to it, and it broke out. We're supposed to get defensive as of 2 weeks ago, but markets march relentlessly up. The primary wave went down, but honestly, we were getting close to getting, taking defensive measures. And if you bought, tiptoed into some contras, things like that, hopefully you've already closed out of them. But this DEW up signal still remains. Now, the primary wave is going to give you a little bit more chop in the market, especially the MTI sell high. That's going to be your first warning, right? But the DEW signal, if you see a preliminary down signal occur here, that would be my, real call to action to say, hey, time to start getting defensive. USN is now running low on SM3 missiles. Need to get more contracts out. I'm sure a lot of people are running lower on missiles as of in the last few years, right? A lot of missiles have been fired. But we're seeing an upper wick giving some of that away today. Now let's take a look at transportation and the shipping. I want to see if they're moving off of the Houthi, or not the Houthi, the Strait of Hormuz. Transportation all the way down here. Ship, there we go. Undervalued, but again, not much life. I had a little bit of a build up here. Just broke below that 20-day EMA. So again, shipping, I'm not going to get too excited about. Let's just take a look at oil here. We'll go sector. We'll go to petroleum. Definitely not. Again, another down day today when it comes to oil. Price action on the decline. Value on the decline over the last 9 months. I cannot get too excited about it. And actually, there is one other thing I want to look at here. Let's go to industry. I'm going to go to mining. Somewhere down here. There we go. Gold and silver. Gold, it's faltered over the last few days, trying to hold here. We see a lot of buying pressure right at this 20-day EMA. So if you were a swing trader and you took some profits yesterday or mitigated some losses, wouldn't be mad at it. But still, overall, the upward trend is still intact. we could get a retest on this trend line here going forward. Obviously, geopolitical things are going to play a role in that. We know last time gold had a big rally. It was when the tariffs was most heated. So if there's not a deal between China and the U.S. and the tariffs come back into the forefront, we could potentially see gold going higher, right? But if you're holding some gold just as a hedge, just be careful. We did just cross below that 20-day EMA. But overall, look at the valuation here. Valuation's still on the rise, price action on the rise. I like what I see here when it comes to this chart. Am I going to say to be overweighted in gold right now? Probably not. As we get closer to some of these deadlines, like I said, it was July and August are the two main deadlines with China, and you want to hedge your portfolio, gold probably not a bad way to do that potentially. All right, now there's another one. The other item I want to go to is the ETFs. Currency other. This is typically where you get a lot of the crypto. All right. And if we're taking a look here, let me just use a freehand line. See what we got here. We got diverging. See what happens. I know Bitcoin, I think the last time I looked at around 106. I know the stable coins have taken a lot of the glamour out from crypto. And I think that's probably, Bitcoin's, biggest rival is just, the amount of competition it has now. I would say, its competitors is probably more of a rival than gold at this point. But that being said, it's getting back above that 20-day EMA. If you're a holder of crypto or crypto-related stocks, you might see some enthusiasm starting here soon. All right, let's go back to the Viewers tab. Now that we covered some of those. All right, let's go ahead and take your picks. Glenn is out today. Again, he's recovering nicely. I'm not exactly sure when he'll be back, but hopefully here in a few weeks, we should get Glenn back. As far, the last update I had, the recovery is coming great. What is the blue area? Oh, that's the 20-day EMA. It's just shaded in right there. All right, let's go ahead and put some stocks in here. All right, we've got quite a few stock symbols coming in. We got CLS, SMCI, AMD, LRN. Quite a bit of stocks coming in here. MU, yes, that's another good one to look at. Big Bear AI. I haven't looked at that one in a while. Hood. LR. CLS. Oh, that one's already on the list. We got CCL. Oh, Oracle. ORCL. There we go. Good one. Is CRS? Yep, we do have CRS in the list, I believe. Yep. There you go. Tesla. Yes, I did a short on Tesla yesterday. What was it? A dark cloud cover, and I saw it down today. So it does look like that bearish candlestick getting some confirmation today. I did see an article. I didn't pull it up. I didn't put it in here today. But Tesla's European sales, if I remember, the figures are out. If I remember correctly, the year over year was on a decline. I want to say it was almost 30%. So almost a third. It had dropped just year over year. I don't see that being good for Tesla. And as far as the robo-taxi, I don't know if you guys and gals saw this, but some of that footage that came out, some of the incidences. One of the Teslas caught on camera going the wrong way down a street. Greg says 28%, Ryan. So yeah, Tesla, if you bought Tesla on the dip and enjoying that nice rally, me personally, I would probably get a little bit more defensive on Tesla right now just because that robo-taxi news faded away pretty quickly. The competitor, I mean, Google's Waymo is probably leading the charge right now, and that I haven't gotten or seen at least too many updates as far as the robots. Jazz says, yes, one was speeding, but yeah, it didn't look good as far as the launch in Austin. I know the initial, pop on Monday was the enthusiasm. That Tesla wasn't going the wrong way. That was me driving the wrong way. John, stop it. But yeah, just, if you're holding Tesla, just be careful because we did see a bearish candlestick yesterday, and we'll take a look at it today, see how that confirmation is working out here. And then as far as, the decline, here we go, double leverage Broadcom. I do like that. Tesla seems out of favor for now. Lots of UAV competition. Yes, a lot of autonomous. I've been saying this, that as far as just a sole car company, the stock is way overvalued. The only way you get justification for Tesla, obviously you've got, the Elon premium, and the data side of it I get. The batteries, I saw, a huge project for the I think it was a smart grid in China. It was like $500 million. It wasn't a small project. It was the largest smart grid project. Tesla's is got a contract to help out with that in China. So me personally, if you want to see Tesla start really catapulting and really seeing a justification for its valuation, it's going to be in autonomous technology. It's going to be in the data side of things, and it's going to be in the robots, robotics. So once they can get that commercialized, we'll see. But the longer they take, the more of a chance they're giving competition to catch up, if not beat them. So that's my only concern with Tesla right now. All right. At the top of the list here, look, we got the CSs at the top. We got CLS and CRS at the top of the list here. Look at the VSTs here. Let's see. We got some strong VST ratings here. 1.67, 1.62. As far as the best long-term position, potentially, as far as appreciation and capital, Stride Inc. RV coming in at 1.73, currently trading 142. We value the company at 227, so it is undervalued, and we see a lot of strong optimism compared to a AAA corporate bond. So as far as long-term price appreciation, this is the top stock here. Look at Micron, not far behind it. And the company, even though it's been on a tear, I've talked about Micron a lot lately. The semis I normally talk about. Obviously, AMD, NVIDIA is at the top of the list. And then usually shortly after that, it's probably Micron, SMCI, Broadcom. I talk about quite a bit. I like semis right now, and tonight I go into several reasons why. So definitely make sure you check out that video. As far as safety picks, safety is not a bad thing to have right now, especially with the MTI so high. Still a lot of geopolitical things on the table. A lot of items not resolved yet. Axon taking the charge here, coming in way overvalued. We'll throw that out there, even though it is a safe pick. Price action 785, value 200. It's got the highest safety rating. But look at Stride, LRN, second this time, right? 145. So not only are you getting one of the highest RVs in the database, but you're also going to get one of the highest relative safeties in the database. I really like Stride. I really do. We'll take a look at the chart here in just a moment. Let's see here. RT relative timing, where are my big movers at? We got CLS up another 5% today. Whew, this stock is rocking and rolling. We got Symbotic, SYM up 10%. Hood up slightly. I know yesterday was a big day for Hood. We got a LAR. 2 times leverage for Broadcom here. AVL long up 0.5%. AMD up 3%. Look at AMD 142. Telling you, semis, not a bad idea. I said it during the entire, just about every live stream, just about every 6 p.m. video. If you got an AMD, if you got an NVIDIA sub 100 or close to 100, that was the move to make. I know a lot of other stocks may have outperformed these two recently, but those are just safe bets during that tariff sell-off, that whole situation. Let's see here. Go down to Big Bear AI. MU singing Dixie, but Glenn getting better. Don't be afraid to take profits. Don't ever be afraid to take profits, right? Enjoy your summer, especially, like I said, if you have access to the VectorVest 7 software, you can always go here to the Views tab, and there's a little search thing here. Just put July high, a little search bar here. Put July high. There'll be some articles that pop up. But if you've been a subscriber with us quite a bit, Dr. Lito has done several essays about the July high potentially. So I see that coming to fruition. And then, the market, obviously depending on what China and the U.S., whatever comes from that, that'll probably depend how long that high lasts, right? All right. Market says MU earns today. Yes, Micron does report today. Tomorrow is Nike. And we're wrapping up earnings here pretty soon. So we'll have a new batch of earnings coming out. I'm excited about that. And this batch of earnings was not disappointing by any means. Let's just take a look at forecasted data here as we continue to scroll down. Actually, let's look at this one. Price growth persistent. If the market's hitting new highs, right? MTI is high, and I'm trying to squeeze the last few dollars, or how many dollars are left, right? That's the big question. Why not look for stocks that got no problem hitting new highs right with the market, right? And look at this, Stride, top of the list again. LRN, and then we got Axon here, CLS, Big Bear AI, very strong CI ratings. And look at the forecasted data on these, double digits across the board in these top three items. Again, that's Stride, Axon, CLS, or Celestica. Definitely put these three stocks on your radar here. Now, if we take a look at sales growth rate, what's going to be the biggest one here? Micron at the top of the list, and only followed by AMD, and then Axon, CLS, Stride here. So we're seeing a lot of the same stocks appear, on all of these indicators we clicked on. A lot of familiar faces keep reappearing here. We got growth rate earnings, Stride at the top of the list here, CRS, Axon again we saw, SMCI, Carnival Corp. I've seen Carnival Corp. It may not make the top three, but it has been towards the top of the list here in a lot of these indicators as we've gone through. John Boston says, Ryan confirmed calls and DW held in well in 2020. BSH quite high, so we shouldn't get a confirmed down anytime soon. 34 new highs on the New York Stock Exchange. The confirmed call going to a down signal. Obviously, that will give you out of the market later, potentially losing a little bit more profits, but does do a good job keeping you in, or at least mitigating just certain market volatility. Michael says, made money on a CCL and a covered call. Gotta love a good covered call when the MTI is high. All right. But yeah, good stocks here. Let's take a look at the graphs, see if there's any opportunities here. Here's Hood. Big gap up today. Now, if this goes into the body and more than, I think it's 50% of the body, it's a dark cloud cover. Yeah, it should be dark cloud cover. And that's the same thing that we saw in Tesla yesterday, if I remember correctly. But hey, it's still above the 20-day EMA. If you're looking for a tight level of support, it's probably going to be right in this area here, maybe like a little zone. Maybe somewhere here between 77, 79 bucks. So if we do, get some follow through to the downside here, I'd like to see it hit these levels and back up. If it breaks these, if you're just swing trading, it's up to you, but definitely that would be on my radar. Potentially getting defensive, depends where you're at with your profit or loss. But if we break that 20-day EMA, we get a clear break on that, definitely would start protecting profits. Micron, again, my favorite chart pattern. We're seeing a lot of this in the semis right now. Valuation on the rise, price action on the rise. Nice retest on this 20-day EMA here. So if you're looking for an entry point, if it starts to roll over, maybe look at this 20-day EMA. You can put maybe a stop loss just below it. So you get, if it doesn't work out, you can just close out of the position, mitigate the risk early in the trade, or look for follow through on the pivot to the upside. But if I had to guess, I'd probably put a little support zone right in this area here. So if we do get that rollover, that's where I want to find support to the pivot. And the 20-day EMA is moving right in there. So I wouldn't be shocked if we got a rollover and boom, nice pivot to the upside. See what happens. Here's LRN. LRN here, look at this. This is the opposite side of the story. We're getting resistance now in this 20-day EMA. Let's go to 6 months. So yeah, if you have been locking in profits here, what was once a level support, we see several touches on this 20-day EMA, right? Now it's becoming a level of resistance here, and this actually is that dark cloud cover. This is an example of it here. It looks like a dark cloud cover. Yeah, so you get the gap up, and then you go down, and you're about halfway into the body. You want to be about 50% or more. So dark cloud cover, follow through, rejection, right? That 20-day EMA. So as far as LRN or stride, short term, I'm going to be bearish. Short term, I am bearish. John says, if you are using the VectorVest portfolio manager, you can set trailing stops tighter, say 10-15%. Just thought, yes. Or even if you have access to Profit Locker Pro. I mean, if you don't have access to Profit Locker Pro, I would recommend checking out a trial for it. I've used it before a lot. But it's essentially just a trailing stop, but you can customize it to do all kinds of things. A little bit more complex than I've seen in most brokerages, if not all of them. I haven't seen something like this in any brokerage. All right, here we got CRS, Carpenter Technology Corp. Look at that, rocking and rolling above the 20-day EMA. We got nice touches here, nice level of support. One thing I do like about this position, though, you see CRS, price action on the rise. Now, if value would have remained flat or, fiddled around here, around 160, pure momentum play, right? But look at the valuation going from less than 100, about 150 here, up to 220, trying to keep up with price action, see what happens. But if you're riding out the momentum, I would just take a look at this 20-day EMA. It's working out so far, right? You probably, use Star Search or other moving averages, but just stay disciplined right now. If you're looking for, an entry point, maybe later down the road, maybe you missed this run, I'm looking for support around here. You see, look, several touches, boom, 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 boom. This is a nice, strong level support. And if price action ever does go down here and valuation remains the same, you're not buying it overvalued, right? So if you missed this big run, put it on your radar, but I could see maybe 219, 214, depends what the market does. Otherwise, maybe a shorter term or tighter level support probably be in here. Ryan, one of your favorite stocks is close to a new high. TSM, yes. I guess all my favorite stocks tend to be in the semis, but that's just the industry that I like to track and follow. Way before it was cool. That's where I learned to trade options off of was AMD many years ago. But I like the semis, and honestly, and one thing, and I mentioned it tonight, I'll give you a little teaser, because obviously I track semis, but semiconductors do well in interest cutting environments, right? Last time NVIDIA hit a new high, just I think 2 months before is when we did the interest rate cut last fall, right? Well, now we're talking about another interest rate cut, and guess what? NVIDIA just hit a new high. So as long as there's talks of an interest rate cut, and if there is an interest rate cut, I'm going to be bullish on semiconductors, because that's usually good for growth stocks, and semiconductors is pretty much the poster child for growth stocks in my opinion. But yeah, CRS, you see my levels here, 238 short term. But again, that 20-day, doing a great job locking in profits right now. Here's SMCI. Oh, okay, look at SMCI. You see I had a little channel here. Little channel. It wants to break outside of this channel. This would be my zone on the resistance sign. We're in that zone right now. So if we get some rejection here, that's probably why. But if we get confirmation, that's going to be around $47. We value the stock at $70. One thing I will say about SMCI, I haven't heard any bad news, on the accounting irregularities. I feel like all that's behind us. Does anyone know of an update? I haven't really also Googled it either as of late. I feel like it would just, made headlines like it did last time. But I haven't heard anything bad. So, hopefully that's behind us. If you're thinking about a semiconductor, SMCI, probably not a bad one to put on your radar now, because it looks like that, for the most part, is getting behind us, right? CRS is overvalued, though, now. Yes, Michael, see, I did say if you have some patience, you might be able to catch it fairly valued on that pullback of that zone. When China attacks Taiwan, I'll buy puts on TSM. Michael, if China attacks Taiwan, I bet you could probably put a put on anything tech-related or just about anything in the market, and you'll probably make some money that day. Let's be honest here. I got a rainy day fund if that case that ever happens, and I'll probably do the same, right? And TSM would probably be one of the ones I do it on. I can just do the Qs or AMD, NVIDIA, But, you know, if that ever happens, yeah, that'll not be good for a lot of things, not just semiconductors. Are you on a day chart? No, I'm on a 6-month chart right now. We'll take a look at some day charts here soon enough. That's true. Hope we live long enough to enjoy it on second thought. Yeah, Michael. The money you make off some puts, if that in that situation, will probably not be worth the effect of what that can cause. Okay. Even though if it does happen, yeah, probably could make a couple bucks there. I'll probably do it myself. Here's Axon Enterprise. Let me look. Nice retest, just like the major indices, just like we've seen some of these stocks here. You can see my little levels here, my little zone. We got a retest on that zone, off to the races. Then the 20-day EMA moved out of that zone, retested that, saw some buying pressure. So it looks good here, approaching that new high. No real concerns right now for this position. But again, look at this, just way overvalued. We valued $200, it's trading at $800. So that's going to be my biggest concern here overall. Here is CLS. Look at this stock. Was undervalued, greatly undervalued. Around it was trading around 60 at its low. Valuation was just above $120. Big run there, right? Big run, big breakout here. You know, again, we got a double top. Actually, it kind of looks like a cup. Looks pretty cuppish to me. Maybe not the prettiest cup to drink out of. Not much of a handle either. We just got the breakout to the upside. Maybe look for a retest, see what happens. You know, if you want to buy it from the momentum, you know, taking out today's high, make sure that momentum continues. Hey, you know, am I going to be a buyer of this stock today? Me personally, probably not. But if you're owning it, hey, you're making money right now. I know you're happy. At 141, this is going to be my first level, obviously, but this zone here, the bottom of that zone around 135. And if price action fiddles up here, you know, a couple more days, that'll probably bring this 20-day EMA right into this zone. Again, you got to think chess, not checkers. Think about what affects what. And if that happens and price action goes back into this zone with that 20-day EMA, it might just find another level of support and look for that pivot. That would be my entry point here. Glenn is resting and recovering. He mentioned it at the top. Yes, Glenn is recovering. I just spoke with his wife earlier. Apparently, there's some good news on that recovery. As far as the details, I'm not releasing that stuff, but yeah, as far as I know, he's doing good, and I'm optimistic about the whole situation. So hopefully we'll get him here the next few weeks. I'm not exactly sure, but that would be ideal. All right, I know he's ready to work. When I saw him, he was already asking to come back to work. And I was just looking at him like, I don't know about that, bud. Don't know about that. But yeah, CLS, I just like that it's overvalued. That's the biggest thing I got for it. I just described my entry point. Hypothetically, if that scenario occurred, the 20-day EMA, getting in this zone here, look for the pivot. Here's Carnival. So if value and price action on the rise is my favorite chart pattern, then this would be my least favorite chart pattern. Value on the decline, price action on the decline, right? But what I will say, look at value now, ticking up. Look at price action now, ticking up, right? We got the buy rating here. Buy rating, VectorVest put the first buy rating here. Closes $22, now it's at $25, so it's just up over 10% there. I like what I see. It's holding on that 20-day EMA. If you're in this position, hey, I can't be mad at it all. Cannot be mad at it. Let's just look at some of the forecasted data here, see what we got. They're on the decline too. So, but 28.7%, just from a price action perspective and the valuation on the rise, I do like that. As far as everything else, not the greatest, right? But I do. Let's go to 1 year. It's not a bad dip. Doesn't look like a bad dip at all. All right, 6 months. Let's see what the next one we got. AMD. Look at that, new 6-month high, hitting it today. Gap up, just like NVIDIA, but you see the stock is getting closer to our valuation. If I move this over, we're currently valuing the stock at 147. AMD is trading at 142. Great stock right here. I like the semis. I like the sentiment and just in the semiconductor space in general right now. You see the growth rate in earnings, even on the NVIDIA chart, they were declining quite a bit, but you can see it's starting to tick back up over the last few months. Well, 24 to 26%. Sales growth rate on the rise, 36%. I do like sales growth rate outpacing earnings growth rate. Again, sales is going to be the fuel for that engine. That engine runs off earnings, right? And those earnings are going to need sales. So I want some fuel for that engine, and we're getting it here. So I like AMD. Just long-term, short-term, swing trade, whatever you want to call it. I like it. Semis are staying hard. Yes, Tabula. I think as long as the talks of a potential interest rate cut, as long as we're in an interest rate cut environment, I like it. But, let's be honest. If, the deal with China doesn't work out and the tariffs do hit us and inflation comes back, tariff interest rate cuts probably won't be on the table so much, right? So and not only that, but China obviously being a big buyer of semis, semi technology, right? SYM rocking and rolling to the upside. Nice buy rating here. I do like this bullish candles here. Nice body on this candlestick. Just overvalued. Growth rate on the decline. Sales growth rate flat. Let's go to a 1-year chart. Kind of a cup. It's kind of a cup. And then we got a little handle. Breakout on that handle. That's going to be about right there. So yeah, I still, from a symmetrical point looking at it, I still see some upside potential here. That's going to put it, let me see here. You can see my little draw. I'm doing this on a projector, so don't quote me to the dollar or the cent, but looking around 43 bucks, that would be my target on this if it keeps rocking and rolling. But still, it looks good. Just look the valuation, right? It's just not there. Not there at all. Machine automation, so it's probably in a hot spot. But look, growth rate and earnings on the decline. Sales growth rate on the decline. Treat it like a momentum play, at least in my opinion. And then in the VectorVest software, that's what it's telling us. Here we've got Oracle, big mover to the upside again. Look, lows around 120, coming up to 11. Hitting a wall here. There's the wall. I mean, that's several touches. Let's go to 3 months. Look at that. Several rejections, just can't get above it. If you're looking for the follow-through around 216, if we get a clear rejection here and we break around 202, we got a gap fill. And actually, the 20-day EMA is right at the top of that gap. We might get some buying pressure there, pivot, but just be careful just because we're hitting a wall at 216, it looks like. 216, about 60 cents. Here's Alar. Stock being undervalued, now moved into overvalued territory. Big move to the upside, was around $8, now $13.65. Let's go to a year chart, see what we got here. We got some other levels to come in. My first level of resistance probably right here. It's $21. Well, this one might be as well. So that'd be our first wall probably around the $15, $16 mark. And the second wall is going to be around 21. So keep those in mind when you're thinking about taking profits or looking for profit objectives. Michael says ACI is so undervalued with upgrades from $22 to $26, then another upgrade to $27 by Wells Fargo. Here we got Big Bear AI. This is that looks like a dark cloud cover. We got the gap up, back into it. We'll see. That is exactly what you don't want to see on a big day like yesterday, right? We got another big gap up, and then again, just giving it all back here. And we're back in this, was resistance, but now we're gonna look at it as support. That zone around 513 to about 451. Big Bear AI is just overvalued. Look, we only value the stock at 59 cents. It's trading $4.76. Growth rate and earnings, $4. Sales growth rate 4%. Sales growth rate 5%. I can't get that excited about a company. At least with Palantir, I'm getting double digits earnings and growth rate. Yeah, I know the stock's overvalued, but at least I'm getting great forecasted data with an overvalued company. I'm not going to get into an overvalued company, especially with buy and hold in mind. if the forecasted data, is lackluster as such. So again, I'm not going to be that optimistic when it comes to Big Bear AI right now. Best case scenario for the bulls, we find this as a level of support and we stay above this level of support. Have you looked at a chart of ACI? Not today. Here's Broadcom, double leveraged for the bulls. I mean, look, it's simple here. Retest, 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 retest. As long as it stays above that 20-day, I'm rocking and rolling, right? If you want to jump in here late to, you would be late to the party because it was at 15, now it's at 35. I do see that upper wick here. Let's take a look at a month chart. Potential shooting star could form here. We'll see what happens. But as far as, getting in this position, I'd look for another retest. Maybe a pivot off of it if you want the confirmation. Otherwise, just put your stop, shortly below the 20-day EMA. Cut your losses short. I just made money selling puts on Palantir. Works for me. I like Palantir. But again, everyone, I see articles about Palantir being overvalued a lot. But more importantly, with Palantir is the forecasted data I can get excited about, right? Big Bear AI, that forecasted data just, doesn't get me very excited at all. And here is, look at Tesla, was at the bottom of the list. And I was just here talking about how I really don't like Tesla right now. And of all of the stocks, this one here has got the lowest combination of value, safety, and timing. I mean, look, it's lower than it was. It was a 6-month chart. Valuation, pretty flat still at $30. Let's go to a 1-year chart. It's actually been on the decline, valuation. Price action on the decline. Growth rate and earnings, -6%. Sales growth rate, -9% here. If had Palantir paid dividends, I'd buy it. Well, Michael, why don't you just turn Palantir into an income stock? You sell calls against it. Kind of the same thing as dividends. Just you don't have to worry about the dividends. You just got to sell a call against it if you want some income off of it. But I mean, I like Palantir. I can't get mad at it. But yeah, if you see a hot stock that's just way overvalued and you're kind of iffy on it, go to the forecasted data, right? See if you can get excited there. Is the stock worth paying a premium? And I'm sorry, but Big Bear AI, it's not worth the premium, in my opinion. So when I get assigned on it, I will. Oh, okay, gotcha. But yeah, if you do like stocks and you're looking for an income strategy and it doesn't pay a dividend, you can still turn it into an income strategy utilizing options. Yes. I sell spreads around positions to get dividend out of them. Okay, there we go. And then yes, Bill, you just said it right here. The yield max ETFs, PLTY. There's AMDY, just about all these big tech companies, they'll do the work for you. So if you want some of these big tech companies, and then they're not paying dividends, but it's kind of the strategy you're thinking, look at the PLTY, the AMDY, those yield maxes. They are volatile, right? They are volatile. I will just give you fair warning there. I've looked at some of those charts. They are very volatile. Just look at the dividend. Look at the dividend pays. Look at the dividend safety. See what happens here. A while back, you recommended Alar, it's on the move. Can you take a look for me? What time is it? 2:59. Take a look at Alar, ACI, UAMY, and that is it. Your tax question last week in the VV Online Users Group. Members to discuss it. Do you ever play XSP 0-day or next day expirations? I play 0-day expirations all of the time, Reggie. But I am the buyer of that equation. I am not the seller. I know a lot more about the buying and day trading of those options because I don't have 100 shares of the NASDAQ 100. Start selling options against. But yeah, if you have a large count portfolio, selling zero DTEs, selling options against it, short expirations in general, good way to make that additional income. Yes, PLTY. Yeah, they're all pretty volatile. pretty volatile. I buy them, but I use VV to buy them. Okay. But yeah, I day trade options. I mean, it's a good way to do it, especially if you're just looking for a quick scalp, but just stay defensive in nature because, or disciplined in nature, because there's a lot of volatility with zero DTEs. And I'm sure you know someone that's lost money day trading options or wiped out an account. So just stay disciplined when it comes to that. But yeah, we did talk about ALAR before. Now that you mention it here, that's my first target is around 1550. Second target is 21. We did already discuss that one. ACI, I mean, this just looks like a classic rollover right here. I can't get too crazy about this. Growth rate and earnings, -5. Sales growth rate, -3. No, I'm not that excited about this stock. Let's see here. Let's look at UAMY. Continue to pull back here. Now it's got the sell recommendation at 253. Yeah, I'd probably look at $1.85. And I've said this before, if there's some kind of deal when it comes to U.S. and China, these stocks, not that they're bad, but they're probably going to pull back, right? Because it's going to, push that dependence on, USAR, UAMY. It's going to push it out a little bit because we're going to get, those ideas from those materials, the critical minerals, the rare earths, all that good stuff from China. But again, I Googled it today. I haven't really seen any updates. So just be careful. Can you please look at ACI? If you were in the company shares, that would you sell or hold? I can't tell you what I would do. I can't tell you what to do. But yeah, I mean, I just see a clear rollover here. The stock is overvalued. Even the valuation itself is starting to roll over. Let's go out to a little bit more here. The stock is down over the last year and a half. I can't get too excited there. Our stop price, we're just hovering right above that stop price too. And that's about right where I put it because you see the level of support coming in here. Yeah, if we take out this low, which our stop's going to be tighter than that, that's around 1996. But yeah, I would be getting defensive on this, or I don't know what your goals are, but if it's optional, maybe sell some calls against it. At least collect some premium if you're not going to sell it. We shall see. All right, let's get out of here. I want to take a look at just the VectorVest composite real quick, and then we're going to call it a day. All right, let's look at the 1 day. We're going to take off the valuation here, skewing the graph. That is the VectorVest composite. Doesn't look very optimistic, right? Not quite. Well, let's look at the NASDAQ 100 because this is going to be comprised with a lot of small caps, putting a lot of pressure on it. NASDAQ 100 also trading at session lows. So yes, as far as buying positions right now, I'm not backing up the truck. We saw optimism yesterday. We got the follow through from the green light today. Take a breather on buying. If you see something that really catches your attention, that's on you. But in general, right now, I'd put a little bit more emphasis on getting defensive because, like I said, we might get a July high. It's hard. No one's got that crystal ball, but we're not that far from that July high, right? That would be the last few dollars squeezed out of this rally, right? But just keep on the back of your mind. There's big things that can happen in July. Again, GDP data. We could be potentially entering a recession, right? In addition to that, we've got the first reciprocal tariff deadline with China. I think it's July 9th. And then the 90-day pause is in August. And depending on those two items, we'll probably give the Fed enough information to see if we're going to get that interest rate cut or not, right? Because if we're in a recession, yeah, that sounds good to get an interest rate cut, right? Help the economy. It's a pretty easy sell. And it's a lot easier to sell interest rate cut if you got 2 quarters of negative GDP, right? So just keep that stuff in your mind. But again, just have caution right now. Be cautious. Even the VectorVest 7 system right there at the top makes it clear as day. Have some caution right now. On that note, everybody, Just, say a prayer for Glenn. He's a man of prayer. He believes in the power of prayer, as do I. So, definitely extend those out to him and his family, his loved ones, when you get a moment. Other than that, tonight's video, NVIDIA hitting another high today. So, I'd be a little bit more optimistic when it comes to semiconductors. Are we in a recession? Have anyone said this yet? Michael, we are technically halfway in a recession. By definition, recession is GDP negative 2 quarters. First quarter was negative. Second quarter ends at the end of this month. That data will be out in July. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to put out a prediction or anything like that. Just honestly, it's kind of hard to, because the tariffs, if the tariffs were enacted and not pushed back, I'd be more inclined to say yes. But now it's, how much of these tariffs have really affected the economy, and we're going to find that out here very soon. So everybody have a wonderful afternoon. Stay disciplined. Check out tonight's video, and I will see you Thursday afternoon. Take care. Bye.